And what do you suspect is the number of people that are engaged in this practice in the state? How many jobs are we talking about here?
Well, it's a tough thing to say. I know that there was about 4,000 dredge permits in 2009, which was the last year that we could suction dredge. But you have to look at the economic impacts, especially of the rural communities. I know where I have a home up in Coulterville, California, it's a pretty small community, has been devastated. Groveland, Sonora, Mariposa, I can speak to that area. And it's in the tens of millions of dollars because California is so rich with gold. 80% of the gold's still in the ground. So you have people coming from all over the country, actually all over the world, come to California to dredge when they could. And so that generates a lot of income for these small communities, and it has devastated them. We can give you an example after example of businesses that have actually closed since the suction dredge moratorium. Hardware stores, gas stations, cafes, restaurants, tourism, all those businesses have been severely impacted.
And then you mentioned, finally, one last question. You mentioned that since the moratorium in a certain area, you said that there was a dramatic increase in mercury levels. Who did that study, and do you have a copy of that study for us?
That was on the South Yuba River, and yes, it is provided in your in the book that we handed out too.
Jeff, yeah, this.
It's in there, okay.
You have a copy over there.
I'm sorry we got this so late. I would like to have seen this
Yep.
before, but I appreciate that you submitted it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Other questions by members? If not, I will excuse the witnesses over here.
Well, I think,
If you wanted to ask a question of your witness.
well, I know you had some comments on collection that you might want to address. Yeah.
If you'll let me address the comments on the collection process, because
Through the chair, yes. It's just not the normal practice of bringing up the witnesses a second time unless there's a question from all of us.
Oh, I get, okay. The thought was that there were some things mentioned by the witness.
That would be your rebuttal, yes. So if you want.
Yeah, just the comments on the collection.
okay, I just wanted to comment on collection. When I was on the Nevada County Board of Supervisors, we did understand that there was a problem with where to take mercury for collection at that time under Prop 65. As you know, mercury is a Prop 65 toxic material. You're not allowed to carry it around with you. So Nevada County worked with the State Water Resources Control Board to get a specialized permit to allow us to collect mercury. I stood out in the parking lot and we collected a lot of mercury. We also had a number of suction dredge miners approach us that day and ask us to purchase the mercury. 56% of the guys do collect mercury, and many of them carry it around in mayonnaise jars and pickle jars, and it's anything more than 12 pounds of it, you're supposed to take it to a safe refuge. Those exist. In Nevada County recently, we had a suction dredge miner bring us some mercury to show us this about how they're removing it, and of course I'm going to address the flaws in that science at the next hearing. But we actually worked with that guy. We helped him pack it appropriately because he walked in with a bottle full of mercury. We have a HAZWAPER license in our organization. We wrapped it properly and followed him to the hazardous waste disposal site in Nevada County. It's already possible to dispose of this stuff, but what we found is suction dredge miners still use it commonly as part of their recovery as a gold mining process, another part of their activity that we find unregulated.
No, guys, inappropriate.
So that's my response to Mr. Allen's question.
Thank you. And I will excuse the witnesses. Thank you very much for your testimony. And we'll open it up to the, this bill's been moved by Senator Woke. Any questions of the author before I allow him to close? Questions of the author? All right, Senator Allen, you've heard differences of opinion here. This bill probably is going to take some work, as you know.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, I'm happy to meet with the gentleman and talk to him about some of his concerns. I guess, you know, this is not a ban on suction dredge mining. This is a bill that seeks to empower the Water Board to exercise its responsibility and authority under our clean water regulations to regulate this activity so as to, protect the quality of water in our state. So, the sorts of issues that were raised involving the removal of mercury, removal of lead, the environmental impacts of the mining would be examined by the Water Board that does this work looking at all of our rivers, and they would then be able to make determinations. It's not a ban. It simply, this bill seeks to address the core concerns raised by the court in the recent San Bernardino case by clarifying the role of the Water Board in regulating this type of activity. So with that in mind, I'm so happy to work with both the gentleman and folks from this committee and others, and respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you very much for your close. And I do note for the record members on page 2 of the analysis, there's brief mention of the 2 court cases, which is probably the rationale for why we're addressing this bill here today. And there's been a motion by Senator Woke, and that would be do pass as amended to environmental quality, because it has been double referred, where we're going to spend a longer time talking about the mercury and lead and contaminants and the Water Board's role in all this, which is probably the primary concern and the reason people are here, right? Yep.
Senators Pavley?
Aye.
Pavley, aye. Stone? No. Stone, no. Allen?
Aye.
Allen, aye. Fuller? Hertzberg? Hueso? Jackson? Monning? Wolk? Wolk, aye. That has 3.
Let's get these out. I don't want mercury here.
Madam Chair, maybe as a courtesy to the folks who are here, we want to explain to them that the vote hasn't been completed.
Senator Allen has asked me to, because so many of you have driven a long distance, anything you would like to submit in writing before the hearing on April 29th will be official part of the record and read by the people analyzed for that hearing, because the information regarding mercury and lead is relevant to that jurisdiction. And I appreciate your attendance, and Senator Allen has agreed to continue to work with the gentleman who represented you all today. Thank you for coming all the way to Sacramento. Okay.
Stone chair, or do you want me to chair? Do you want to chair?
Okay, thank you. Look, I wish I had it before, but I said I wish we had the information before, but yeah. Oh, no. That was very. Our hearings. We're going to be moving to Senate Bill 226, welcoming Senator Pavley.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. Senator Stone. I would like to first announce this bill will be double referred to judiciary on issues relating to due process. It's been interesting the last year or two when we're talking about the SGMA, that's the Sustainable Groundwater Management Bill. One of the things that came out from all the hearings is how long the groundwater adjudication process takes. And just a real-life story, Antelope Valley is in year 15 on the adjudication process, and they're still not finished. So everyone, regardless of what you think about the Groundwater Management Sustainability Bill, agrees that there seems to need to be a way to streamline, without compromising due process, the adjudication procedures. So what is groundwater adjudication? It's initiated by a lawsuit because someone has been harmed. Maybe their groundwater levels have been lowered so much that it's affected their property, their subsidence, a degraded water quality, a variety of issues could compel that. But so when a suit's filed, they've indicated they've been harmed, and it's brought to adjudicate the basin and the groundwater basin and the overlying property owners. That's all determined by the court. The court also decides many other factors, but this is a legal way to decide who gets how much water and who are the rightful property right owners on that particular basin. It's complicated. I think the big winners in the adjudication process are the lawyers. It's lengthy, it's costly, no offense, Senator Allen. And so this particular bill came out of an amazing hearing we had last fall. I think we spent about 3 hours listening some testimony, whether it was from, they weren't representing organizations, but people that work with the Farm Bureau, someone who works with Aqua. Justice Roby did an amazing job. He's an appellate court justice who really understands this issue. And we really zeroed in on a few ways we think we can help expedite the process without compromising due process. So in the analysis, it spells out pretty clearly all the different parts of this bill, but let's look at some of the key issues. Number one, it looks at basin boundaries. Boundaries, lots of times it takes years to determine who are all the property owners, et cetera. But basin boundaries can be determined and should be determined by Department of Water Resources. They have a Bulletin 118, and it can be modified along the way as you review the need to change boundaries, but that would expedite it instead of starting from square one all the time. So DWR already has that process in effect. It's complicated because of multiple cities, property owners, et cetera, on boundary lines. There's 515 basins in the state of California, and so you can understand why this could be complex. This bill also takes into account notice and service, notice to known parties as provided by the Code of Civil Procedures. Unknown parties would be served by publication. Sometimes they're absentee owners. You don't know who they are. You make a good faith effort to notice everyone by publication. Otherwise, it can take literally years and years and years. Some people, through adjudication, they see a benefit to just stalling as long as they can because they like the situation the way it is. Also, this bill relates to the issue called discovery. Discovery and expert witnesses, the people that testified at the hearing last fall suggested that it would make a lot of sense that we just follow the federal procedures, which require disclosure of specific items without waiting a discovery request, and also follow federal procedures which require an expert witness to provide a written report on opinions the witness will express and the basis and reasons for them, so you're prepared and able to expedite the proceedings. With these changes, SB 226 will reduce needless delays while protecting due process rights. I know there's another bill in the Assembly that's moving forward as well. That's the nature of the system here. It takes a little different approach. One way it's different is that we're looking at putting our bill in as a chapter of the Groundwater Sustainable Management Act, and they're looking at just amending the Code of Procedures, Civil Procedures Code. Those kinds of discussions perhaps are better during the Judiciary Committee discussion on where that belongs, not really this hearing. But I wanted to let you know that this, after dealing with the Groundwater Management Act, everyone has agreed that some kind of streamlining on the adjudication process is warranted. The governor said so too in his bill signing, and this is our good faith effort to move forward with some recommendations and reforms. This is not the end of the discussion for the year. As I said, there's 2 bills moving through the process. It's my intent this committee will hear both of them, mine today, and I assume Assemblymember Alejo's in the future. Ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Padley. This time I'll call the supporters of the bill to come forward.
I don't know if anyone is here.
I think we have one.
We have one.
Quickly.
Oh,
Olivia Regalia for Sierra Club, California, in support.
Thank you for your testimony. And the opposition?